Hello, everyone. Well, we got a nice big crowd here. We want to thank you so much. I will apologize to the in-person folks. It kind of looks a little dark on that. We can play with our lights in here in just a minute. But the point is, this screen you can see, bigger than we do if we use our little screen. And when you watch the recording, if you ever want to watch the recording, I can go on and tell you, though, the recording is off of my computer and it's nice and clear. But welcome. This is our September. Gosh, can you believe September is almost over before you know it? It'll be October. It's officially fall. But I'm Mary Jane Berry. I am the executive director, interim, well, emeritus or outgoing. Maybe that's a better way of saying. James Lavender is going to be our executive director coming up. And if you just want to wave real big up here, baby, they can see him. Yep, he'll be our new executive director. So they talked about it. He'll be leading the meetings coming up soon. But in the meantime, you still have me. But I want to just thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming and setting up and all of our sponsors. And I'll show you that. First and foremost, as you know, we do door prizes, and we got some great door prizes, guys. Really, really good. So be sure you have your ticket for door prizes, and we will do that right after the meeting. So be sure you get a ticket, and if you don't have one, just step in the back. My husband is the one that is giving out the tickets, and as I always say, don't always believe what he says. He oftentimes says that he is giving away a car. Well, he is not. He watches Price is Right every morning, so he gets carried away, and anyway, but get a ticket from him. The agenda for our meeting, as you can see right up here, our agenda is going to be, of course, the social time. 2:30 to 3 is our social time. That's the time to come and check it out with all of our sponsors. That's the time to, get your refreshments and just to be able to walk around, check our mobile library. But we had something unique for this meeting, and that is flu shots. We are doing flu shots. We do that every September. We partner with Liberty Pharmacy and Dr. Nagashev, and he's back there. And yep, there he is, Kanal. So if you would like to get your flu shot, you can go back even during the meeting and go back. I want to let you know he's leaving at 4 o'clock. So that'll be something that if you want to get it before he leaves. The other thing that's really cool, and I've got a slide for him in a minute, we're doing voter registration. This is a big election year, and we want to be sure everyone is registered. There's been a question about, are you still registered if you had been? They can even check that out. And they'll talk a little bit about curbside voting also. And then our speaker is Dr. Benge, who's right over here, who is just awesome. And you're going to get a chance to hear him. So this is our agenda for today. I do want to let you know, and I was hoping they'd all be up. I don't know, maybe they are just about all here now. Hey, while I'm talking about y'all board, if y'all like to come up and executive directors and just stand right up here, we'll let you, because I think they're just pretty much all here now. I saw Stephen come in, Stephen, James, Stacy, everybody just come here to the front real quick, all of our board members. Oh, Michelle's here too. Hey, super, super, super. Hey, Mandy, Maddie, can I get you to come take a quick picture? Okay, so this is my photographer. I also now have a helper bee, which is just wonderful. I had a very handsome young man, and then he got a job. So he quit. Okay, let's see. Stephen, I think we might need to be on this side. You're all together. Okay, you're in charge of taking our pictures, baby. Are you okay with your camera? Okay, cool. Okay, so this is our board. Okay, we got Kanal. If Kanal can in mid shot, and Ash. Oh, and Donna. Oh, this is Ash. Where's Patty girl? Patty. Well, before you take the picture, let me just go through and no raise your hand. Our board chair, Patty, come on up real quick. Our board chair is Stephen Darrow, and he's just wonderful. And then our vice chair is Stacy Scarborough. And then this is Michelle Mason. She is on the committee with the exercise and programs. James Lavender is our new executive director. So raise your hand so they know which one you are in between those two tall, beautiful girls. Okay, and then Carrie, you got Carrie, Brickheader. She is a 413 coach. So many of you guys know her from there. Then we have Karen Duputi. Okay, and Karen is one of our board members. Ash is one of our new board members, and Ash was our speaker last month. So this is really cool. We have Kunal, Dr. Nagashev, and he is the owner and CEO of Liberty Pharmacy and currently doing your flu shots. And then we have Donna Home, and Donna is also a nurse, and she's helping him back there. And we want to thank you. She's a board member. And then, of course, Patty Girl. We got Miss Patty. And Patty is our board secretary. But we're missing still somebody. Who are we missing? Dawn. Oh, Lacey had to leave, and Dawn had to leave too? Okay, so we had two other folks, and they were just here, and I thought they were still here. Anyway, I'm so glad. Thank you to this board. They're a wonderful board. They are going to be what's carrying us on in 2025. Okay. Oh, I'll be talking about it. Yep. I'll be talking about it. Oh, okay. So while she's doing, this is our board, and we're going to come. Oh, me? Okay. There it is. Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for coming and everything like that. Okay, make sure I don't trip over here or anything. Okay. So y'all, for the Zoom audience, you missed it, but we were taking a picture. Sorry about that. Anyway, the next thing I want to share, flu shots again in the back, but his last shot is at 4 p.m. So if you want a shot, you gotta get there before 4 p.m. Voter registration, I mentioned that to you. We are very fortunate. We got Greg and Janice right here, and they are going to just briefly share that, I learned this last time that you can actually, if you want to tell them just a couple minutes. Okay, come on up. You got to come up. You got to be right here in front of my camera. Sorry. Yeah, for the Zoom audience. That you can actually have curbside voting. So if you'll come right here where you can see yourself right there, okay. That way the Zoom audience can see you and speak out, and you can keep close to your mouth.
All right. I'm glad this isn't recorded. I used to do a lot of presentations, and I'd tell people that I was going to wrap myself up and fall before it was over. I figured that kept their attention. They were waiting to see it happen. But with a cordless one, I don't have to worry about that danger. There's a couple things I want to tell you. Greg and I are both with the League of Women Voters. Can you not hear me?
Oh, shut up. Yes.
All right. Now. All right. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple things. We're with the League of Women Voters. Our goal is to have every eligible citizen participating in voting. I've always heard that voting rights are the right that protects all other rights. And so it's, I can tell you all kinds of little slogans like your voice, your vote, etc. But it is important. It is crucial. And this is going to be a hyper election. We are seeing so many requests for our services. The polls are already getting slammed the poll workers are getting slammed already with requests to work extra long schedules, etc. This election has a lot of interest in it. And so we want to make sure all of you are vote ready. There's a couple things I'm going to cover. She already mentioned that we can check your registration status. It just takes a moment. There's a QR code we can look up to make sure that you are still registered. The other crucial thing we want to make sure is that your address on your registration is current, because they will not forward voting related materials in the postal system. And so if you're applying for a mail ballot and there's a conflict between what that shows as your mailing address and what your voter registration shows, then that could create a problem for you. You might not receive your ballot. So let us do a quick check, or we can quickly tell you how you can do it on your own at home on your computer, just to make sure that everything is up to date and current. The other thing I'm going to tell you about is there is a website called vote411.org. And on vote411.org, you can do a lot of things. One of the things you can do is go in and enter information to get your ballot. So you can preview it ahead of time. You can make your selections on who you think you want to vote for as far as candidates, print it, take it with you to the polls. You cannot have your cell phone or an iPad or anything like that open when you go into a polling situation. If it's tucked, in the locked or off position and it's tucked in your purse or pocket, that's fine. But they don't want you using any of those electronic devices while you are in the polling station. So I've found I always have to write it out. I may not be well versed in the candidates for constable, but I may have read something in the voter guide that tips me one way or the other, and I'm going to make a note of that. Because otherwise I'll go in there and I'll still stare blankly at the screen and wonder who was my choice for railroad commissioner. I can't remember. We are in the process of having the League of Women Voters voter guide printed. It's not quite ready. We've contacted all the candidates. We've gotten their responses to our questions, and it should be out soon. Typically, what we do is we distribute those at public libraries. We do it at some of the coffee shops. We do it at some of the assisted living or independent living centers. Obviously, we can't afford to send one to every post office box. We'd love it if we could do that, but with paper and printing costs what they are today, we can no longer do that. I'm sorry, what? Well, if you do the vote411.org, you can look it up online. We can't distribute it to everybody because we would have to have people spending much of their time maintaining probably email distribution lists. So right now, that's not an option. But from what I understand is, I believe my husband checked yesterday, and those individualized candidate lists are not yet up on the website, but they should be within the next few days. Just as we're getting ready to release the print guides, that information should be populated on there. After we find out that you are, in fact, fully eligible at this point in time, and we have the right information on the voter registration system, you have options on how you vote. And I'm going to cover 3. If you do not want to use any of the others, if you want to go to the poll and do it yourself, let me first assure you all Williamson County polling sites are accessible. And in Williamson County, you can go to any open polling station. You do not have to go to your precinct. So anyone here in Wilco, you can go to. There's a list that we have over there if you want to come look at it and make your pick on where you want to go. If you want to do that, that's great. The other thing we're going to have at the polling sites this year is the curbside voting that she mentioned. Every site will have that. What we suggest is, I believe there's a way you can access the polling place phone number, call ahead, tell them I'm planning to come and do curbside voting today, and I think I'll be there around 10:30. The only problem with curbside voting from my perspective is the machine is rather heavy and cumbersome, and so it usually takes 2 poll workers to roll it out to you. Now, if you want to take your spouse so they can do curbside voting, you also can curbside vote. So when you arrive at the polling site, you all practice probably doing curbside shopping during the pandemic. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to pull up to one of the designated spaces where they have a sign. You are going to call or text the number on that sign and tell them you have arrived and you're in place. Don't go to a handicapped site if you're going to remain in your vehicle. Go to one marked as curbside voting. If you do want to go in and you need help seeing or manipulating the machine, a poll worker at your request can assist you, and they have taken an oath that they will enter only what you tell them to enter. They won't double vote themselves. And so we have all of that information available. The other thing that you can do is a mail ballot. And if you want to do that, I would recommend you come and apply for a mail ballot today. Get it into the mail today. When your ballot reaches you, which is probably going to be sometime around the 2nd week of October, maybe a few days later, fill it out almost immediately and drop it in. You may remember when they first changed the format for mail voting, there were a lot of rejections. We have a tip sheet we can give you, and if you follow that tip sheet, it will drastically limit your chances of making an error, so your ballot will not be rejected. Okay? And come see us. We're happy to share any information.
We don't have to.
We don't have to
Thank Janice and Greg Wallace and Owen. Thank you very, very much. And we did it last time, and it worked out really good, the curbside. Hey, I want to be sure and let you know we have another table over here. Karen, if you'd like to stand up. We are going to have our first and only fundraiser, official fundraiser. We're going to have a meal at Fish City Grill. It's $45 for the ticket, and it's going to include an option of 4 different meals. They've got all the information for you. That's Maddie, and I know I have a Mandy. I got it all messed up. But anyway, it's Maddie and Karen, and you can buy the tickets there. And it's going to be on October the 15th. And what's really, really nice is going to, of course, have door prizes, games. It'll be a great event. So I hope you guys go there and sign up. All righty. Next thing. Thank you. I would like to thank all of our sponsors. I had Amy Dukes here. Amy was with Acadia and on New Plaza. Oh,
do you buy the tickets there or do you buy them here?
Oh, you can do both. Either way.
So yeah,
Oh. Okay. So, yeah. So what she said was, the restaurant has asked for a head count. So we would really like if you're interested to go on and buy your ticket today, and or at least sometime. It's also you can buy it online, and we can get it online. We can do a count there. It's just our donate button that's on our website, and in the memo part you could go on and put in there for the Fish City Grill for the fundraiser. But if you buy it now, we're running a tab now just to see how many people, so we can let them know. But we are going to accept people at the door. Yes. All right. October 11th is when we would like to have everybody for the 15th. All right. Thank you again, Acadia. They are one of our sponsors. Medtronic is also one of our sponsors, but they weren't able to make it. Supernus is a sponsor. Sponsoring means that they've actually sponsored us for the year to help us financially with this, because of course, even though we get the gymnasium, we have to do a donation back to them, as well as for all of our administrative stuff, Zoom licenses and that sort of thing. But anyway, they're wonderful sponsors. Abby is not, they didn't get to make it either. But they are here. But we have Oasis. Oasis made it in the corner. There you go. And we have John and Emily here. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming. They have a few, some water and some supplies over there. Plus, they have a door prize. You're going to want to stay for this door prize. All righty. The Grand Living is a sponsor because we meet there on our educational luncheons, which, by the way, we'll be having one coming up here soon. It's going to be sponsored by Amneal. Amneal is right over here. We've got Jill, and Jill is with Rytari. However, there is a new medication out, and at the educational luncheon on Friday, October the 11th, there will be, we will have a speaker who happens to be the GAPS, one of our GAPS favorite, also our medical consultant, Dr. Swallow. So if you would like to come to this luncheon and see Dr. Swallow and learn about this brand new medication, this is going to be on Friday, October the 11th. I will put this out in the next email. And this is, again, another sign up so we have an idea, and then we have a box lunch. So, Jill, we want to thank you for your support. And it's a CREXONT. It's going to be the medication she'll be talking about for sure. All right. Thank you, Jill. Okay. GAPS, local friends and supporters. I have gotten into a kind of a large group of these particular nonprofits, and we're very, very fortunate that they can come at any time to show and share about their stuff. We're very fortunate. We have Age of Central Texas here. We have Roger and Bobby. And so if you want to learn any more about them, they're the ones that have all of those Caregiver U classes that I advertise. Wonderful. But I'm going to put a plug in for them because they're going to have a caregiver conference coming up. I will talk about that in just a second. One of our other groups is Faith in Action, and they're going to have a choral concert coming up on October 17th. That's their fundraiser right here at First Baptist Church. And then I want to get back to Age of Central Texas, but we have our caregiver meeting on September 12th down. We've already had that one. It's going to be the second Thursday in October. I did not update this slide. Darn. Okay, well, whatever that second Thursday is in October, is going to be our caregiver meeting. And by all means, if you want to come, oh, there it is, the tent. See how wonderful. This is Maddie. She is our new helper bee and just wonderful. 21 and young and all that energy. Wow. All right. So, but where I want to go back to Age of Central Texas is that they're going to have a caregiver training camp. This is going to be a free event. And what's really cool, it's right here in Georgetown. So this is open for all the caregivers. And it is going to be from check-in at 8:30 and it's going to go to 2 o'clock. It starts officially at 10 o'clock. It says, I'm a caregiver, now what? This is going to be fabulous. I've started advertising this in my emails, which, by the way, if you're not getting my emails or newsletters, be sure you let us know in the back. Patty is back there. She'll get your email address and let you know to make sure you get it, because this is where I'm advertising all of this information. This is totally free and it will include a lunch. Okay, our mantra and what GAPS is for, we mainly are here for education, exercise, and socialization, and to help you on your journey with Parkinson's. That's kind of what we say, that we are here to fill in the gaps. And these are our main focus. And of course, education is our monthly meetings and the seminars and symposiums that we put on. Exercise, we offer exercise on a weekly basis, every day of the week. And it's socialized is why we have socials, why we also have the time from 2:30 to 3 for you to come and socialize here. So these are our exercise classes. I want to be sure and share. These are also all on my emails. On Mondays is vocal exercise and music therapy. On the second and fourth Monday, it's a very structured class where we're actually doing voice exercises from either Speak Loud or LSVT Loud, one of those specific groups. Oftentimes we have a speech therapist. Right now we're in the process of getting a speech therapist. So this speech therapist that you're going to get for until we hire one is me. So anyway, we have a lot of fun. Some of those people that were there, we still had a lot of fun. So by all means, come on the second and fourth if you want to just do a lot of exercises. But if you want to sing, and we have a wonderful, I've got 2 professional singers and a piano player. That's on the first, third, and fifth. So I encourage you guys, if you would like to exercise your voice, this is a wonderful one to come to. But following all of those classes is Dudley. Dudley, if you'll stand up real quick. Dudley is over there. He leads our card games. He's also a 413 fighter. I mean that he does boxing, but the card games are fun, and they play the card games from about 2:15 to about 3:30ish, somewhere in that time frame, in the same room following voice exercise. So that's why it's so good to go to that. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll jump to both Tuesdays and Thursdays in Sun City, and I'll have Beth and Michelle stand up because you guys are very responsible and helping us so much. These are the fitness folks from Sun City, and yes, and Michelle is also a board member, and she's also the director of fitness in Sun City for all of the different facilities that they have. But they have opened up their classes, which normally are limited to Sun City residents, but they have opened up their classes for non-Sun City residents. So if you would ever like to take on Tuesdays and Thursdays a Parkinson fitness class, you're welcome to come. Now you have to pay. I live in Sun City too. You have to pay just like I would. And I think it's $5. I forgot now. Yeah, $5. But it's a fabulous class for a whole hour. And you get to come free. That's not opened up to anybody else of the general public except for our GAPS members to be able to come to that. So think about that on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Wednesdays, we have, on the 4th Tuesday of the month, I've got art therapy, and that's so much fun. Y'all see pictures of it. It's fun.
What are we doing? Yeah.
And let me see. Oh, yeah, I think somebody was talking to me on Zoom. So if you're on Zoom, if you can mute, that'd be helpful. Okay. And let me see. On Wednesdays, we're going to start chair yoga at 11:30. Yeah, I've got chair yoga instructor. So we will be starting chair yoga on Wednesdays at 11:30, followed by brain and body power for Parkinson's. All righty. And let me see. I've got somebody talking on Zoom. If you can just mute, that'd be perfect. And then on Fridays, we have our voice class with Stephen Darrow that you can do by Zoom. And then on the fourth Friday, you can do brain games. And Stephen's going to talk some more about his class in just a minute. These are just some pictures right here that you can see of all the fun. It's hard to get to see here, but I have them also in my newsletter that you can just see. We play lots of games, lots of stuff going on, a lot of paintings. I mean, this is really a good time, and everything is free except, of course, the $5 classes, which is very, very minimal. But at the same time, we surely hope you will join us. But in addition to that, there's boxing. There's 413 boxing. It's on Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. And then at the Grand Living, they have Rock Steady boxing. You know, when Dave and I first got into Parkinson's, and I say Dave and I because it did help us, it impacted both of us. That 17 years ago, there were no exercise classes at all. There was a Parkinson meeting that met with about 5, maybe 10 people. And it was very limited, and there was only one doctor that we knew of in Austin. And then they got one in a temple at Baylor Scott and White. But in 17 years, a lot of changes. There's been a lot of changes and a lot of things. And as I was sharing with someone earlier today, we are here to help you live the best life possible with Parkinson's. And that's what we're here for. So just keep that in mind. If you ever have any questions or anything like that, you can always call us and let us know. But we want to help you here. All right. Now, another little plug, All In. This is going to be a national Parkinson conference that is coming to Austin. And again, GAPS we have a very close working relationship with this group. And that is one of the reasons why they're even coming, is because of that. I was a speaker there 2 years ago in Washington, D.C., and they decided when they were trying to figure out where they wanted to come, they decided to come to Texas. So I'm very excited about it. GAPS will be represented. We're going to have 2 breakout sessions for art. We have 413 is going to be there. Also, Power for Parkinson will be there. And then GAPS is going to be hosting a reception. So if y'all ever want to come to something really good, this is going to be great. It's called All In, and it's always in my emails. Now, let me see. We've got exercise. What we do, and as Stephen is starting to walk on up here, and Stephen is starting to walk on up here, we are going to be doing at our meetings. We always have an exercise segment right before the speaker. I promise you, Dr. Benge, you're coming up. I promise. But anyway, we always do a little exercise, and sometimes it is exercise, physical exercise. Well, this one is going to be voice exercise. Stephen, I'm going to get you to come around here so that the Zoom crowd can be sure to get you and see you on the crowd. But this is Stephen Darrell, not only CEO of his business, but also our board chair. So, Stephen, thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm actually going to try and do without the mic.
Oh,
Can you hear me okay, Dave?
but they came. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to hold it. I'm going to be loud, okay? Because that's what we're doing together right now. As Mary Jane mentioned, by the way, that slide looks really good. You did that just like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. Give it up for Mary Jane. Of course, she's the best. Everybody loves her. For good reason. Why I'm not. I actually, so on Fridays, anybody that is here that feels like they could use a little bit of help with their voice, just right now, pull out your phone, your tablet, or have your spouse pull out your phone or tablet, go to loudandclear.io, loudandclear.io. It's listed right there. And there's a big green button that says sign up for free voice exercise class. You'll just get an email every Friday that says, hey, class is in an hour. You come if you can, you don't if you can't. It's not a big deal. You don't need to email me when you can't come. I always get emails from people that say they can't come. Whatever. It's fine with me if you do. But I'm going to get to lead us in a little bit of we're going to do really simple voice exercises. And for those of you that I haven't had a chance to get to do my spiel, bottom line, 89 or 90% of people with Parkinson's will at some point experience a voice change. And the good news is if you stay in front of it, you can go a long way in symptom management, right? Okay, so first thing we're going to do, everybody put your feet flat on the ground. You have to have your feet flat on the ground to do this. I'll sit. Sorry, you guys are just going to have to hear me. All right, flat on the ground. Torso nice and upright. And the reason that we need to do that is because for your voice, your lungs are the fuel, right? They hold the fuel. So when you take a deep breath with me. If you're all hunched over, right, you're not going to be able to take a deep enough breath. Put a hand on your stomach. Take another deep breath. If you're taking a nice diaphragmatic breath, you can exhale that. Sorry, guys. You can exhale. Hopefully you felt your diaphragm engage. So if you see me with my hand on my stomach, all I'm trying to do is get a little tactile feedback here. Am I taking a deep enough breath? If I am, my stomach should be moving out as my diaphragm kind of flattens and expands so that my lungs, which are sitting on top of it, are kind of yanked open so they can be filled with some air. Okay. We're going to go through these pretty quickly. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3. We're going to do 4 different warm-up exercises, just 3 times each. And on each of them, I'll show you first what I want you to do, and then you join me on the next one. So I'm going to, for all of them, I'm going to have the same posture, okay, and the same prep breath. Just watch first and join me on the next one. So I'm going to say, let's say, hey, hi, ho, okay? So just watch first. Join me on the next one. Just watch. Hey, hi, ho. Okay? All we're doing is warming our voices up. We're going to do these 3 times together. Deep breath. Here we go. Very good job. Very good job. I heard a little bit of hurrying there, so let's slow it down on this one. Just stretch each one out, okay? Same thing. Deep breath. Here we go. It's better. One more, just like that, okay? Don't change a thing. Deep breath. Here we go. Good posture. Oh, awesome. Hey, I'm hearing really loud volume. The other thing I want to point out is, when I say loud and clear, it's not just about being loud. I don't want to hear something like, hey, hi. That's really abusive to your voice. Instead, you want to make sure you have that nice clear quality. Hey, hi, oh. All right, the next one we're going to do is we're just going to say "ah" for 10 seconds together. Actually, first watch me, join me on the next one. Again, I know I'm going kind of quick here, but I'm not the reason you guys are here. Dr. Benge is, okay? So first, join me on the next one. I'm going to go for 10 seconds. You're going to notice the same inspiratory breath here. Just watch. Oh. That was pretty good for me. Hey, Bob. Good to see you, by the way. Okay. I want you to try and do this thing with me. I'm going to a couple little nuances as we go. First thing, aim for 10. All right. Feet flat. How's your posture? Deep breath. Oh. All right. Very good job. So for some of you, 10 seconds is probably too long. I don't want to hear where you're punching your way through, because you're going to develop nodules or polyps doing that. It's going to cause some damage and really be deleterious in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. If 10 seconds was much too short, aim for 13 or 14 seconds. That's fine. Quick note, I can actually tell that I'm experiencing some vocal fatigue right now. My quality isn't super clear. Just means I've been in meetings all day. So I'm here. Thanks to Oasis. Thank you, Oasis, for the water. Appreciate you, Joe. All right, deep breath. Again, adjust for 6 or 7 seconds. If 10 seconds was too long, go for 13 if it was too short. I'll go for 13 here. Here we go. Deep breath in. Oh. All right, that was too long for me. Too long for me. The reason I have you inhaling through your nose is your body's humidifier. It's going to both warm and moisten the air to help prevent your vocal tract from drying out. Okay. I'm bored of these. Let's go to the next one, but instead of doing our last rep. Okay, so your voice has 2 major characteristics about it. Your volume, how loudly are you speaking? And your pitch, how high, how low do you talk? Okay, so on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to modulate our volume without changing our pitch. Let me demonstrate first. Soft to loud, back to soft. Okay, and then you'll join me on the next one. Just watch. I actually find this to be the most challenging warm-up that we do. Join me on this next one. I go soft, to loud, back to soft. Okay, here we go. Deep breath in, check your posture. And just like I did, right? And so great on the way back down, you were maybe a little precipitous and you're falling off there. Totally fine. I'm going to actually show you the modified version next. Let's all do the modified version. It's especially good if you're the type of person who finds yourself running out of air. Okay, so what we're going to do is go soft to loud, pause to take a breath, loud to soft. Okay, here we go. Deep breath. Pause for a breath. One more of these. Do whichever was for you. Okay. If you had enough air to go all the way around, great. Do that. Hey, wait, good to see you, bro. And if you were running out of air, pause halfway through. Last rep here. Set of warm-ups we're going to do here. Whereas we just changed our volume while keeping our pitch the same. Next, we're going to keep our volume the same. We're going to be loud the whole time. We are going to change our pitch. We're going to go from low to high, back to low. Just watch first, and you'll join me on the next one. For what it's worth, I find this warm-up a teeny bit easier than the last one. Just watch. What we're doing with this warm-up is we're combating the flatness of voice that Parkinson's can sometimes leave us with, right? Where no matter what emotion you're feeling, it's not coming across in your voice, very flat, that kind of takes the character out of your voice. It's really the vocal equivalent of some facial masking. And so we're practicing communicating with how you say something rather than just what you say, okay? Here we go. Let's try this one all together. Low and loud. Deep breath. Very good job, guys. We're going to do this 2 more times. I'm going to show you the modified version next where you can take a breath at the top if you need to, okay? And if you're yawning, really lean into the yawn. Don't try and stifle it because that's a really good oral stretch for you. Here we go. I'm gonna pause. Don't pause if you don't need to. Here we go. Deep breath in. Very good. For our very last rep here, last rep, then I'm going to hand it back over, hopefully to here eventually. What was I going to say about our very last rep before I saw Mary Jane's smiling mug over there?
If you turn this off your face
You don't like my face?
like that,
The next thing I want to bring up here, guys, is
your face was actually
I'm sweating so hard up here, Jim. I'm sure that's exactly why. Something that's worth mentioning from a speech therapy standpoint, guys, is that our time together isn't just to get you really good at saying, oh, that's not the point. The point is that you stay connected to your family, your friends, whether you're out at a restaurant or in a business meeting, on the golf course, whatever. That's the broader context to say, you don't need to be like really cartoonishly low. Just stay in your register, okay? Last one. Here we go. Let's make it good. Deep breath. Check your posture. Excellent job, guys. Hey, I'm going to hand it back over. Sign up to my Friday voice classes. It's free. Download my app. It's also free. Reach out anytime. I think all of you have my email or phone number. Mary Jane will give it to you if you don't. Okay?
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
Pleasure.
And by the way, all of his information is not on, it's also in our newsletter and it's also in our emails. So again, if you're not getting my emails or the newsletter, by all means, please sign up for it and let us know. All right. Now we're finally, I just want to be sure to let you know the next meeting next month is Dr. Swallow. Dr. Swallow will be October the 24th. And we're going to do something fun. One time, or I think it was last year, maybe even, we did Halloween. We came in Halloween costumes and just had a fun time. So we're probably going to do something fun again because this is the last meeting of the year. We do not have a meeting in November, and in December we have our holiday party, and so lots of information. October 24th. Okay, now it's time for our speaker. So as Dr. Benge is walking up here, I want to put a plug in that you get to hear him twice. He is actually going to be coming to the worship place in Georgetown on October the 1st. And it'll be a different topic totally. This one today is kind of more centered around Parkinson's and some issues there to let you really learn more about the mental health with Parkinson's. However, this one's going to be about memory, which is also really good. And we need to keep that in mind too. So I want to tell you, on Tuesdays, October the 1st, 6 to 8 p.m., it is a free event that's coming up. The admission is a canned good that's going to go to the Caring Place. And that is put on by the worship place here in Georgetown. All right. And now this is More Than Movement Impacts on PD, Thinking and Feeling. And this is and I will put this right over here now so he can see himself, and you can start to stay in that camera, and you got to speak up really close up there. There you go.
All right. Thank y'all very much. Mary Jane is amazing. Absolutely. Thank you all so much for having me out. So again, my name is Dr. Jared Benge, and I'm here to talk to you about the aspects of Parkinson's disease that sometimes we don't always think about. We think about Parkinson's disease as a movement disorder, but Parkinson's is more than just movement. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I have no conflicts of interest for this talk. I do have research support from a few different places. We'll talk some about some of the research that we're doing funded by the National Institutes of Health today. These opinions are my own, though. And again, I'm a stranger in a gym. So this doesn't substitute for medical care. Talk to your own doctors about the things if you have questions about your particular health situation here. Okay. So who am I? All right. So first of all, I'm your neighbor. I live down Williams, right outside Sun City. Howdy, neighbor. So it's good, always good to come back and talk to my neighbors here. I'm also a dad, and I'm a dad of two sons. You can see up there. My eldest is Zeke. He's 17. And I tell you about Zeke because Zeke has autism and intellectual disability and seizures. So Zeke is our miracle child. Zeke is here, always going to be part of our family. And I tell you about him to say that sometimes when you come to a group like this, it can sometimes feel overwhelming. It may feel like that you are impacted by the neurological disease. Your family is impacted by this disease. Are you the only one? And I tell you this to say, look around here. You'll see that other people are impacted by these conditions, but also look up here. My family's impacted by neurological disease. And I think a lot about a study that was published a few years back in the Annals of Neurology that said that if you look across the spectrum of neurological disorders, from stroke to seizures to neurodevelopmental problems to neurodegenerative disease to back problems and peripheral nerve problems, the burden, the impact on families in America is about 30 to 50% at some point in their life will be directly or indirectly touched by neurological disease. So you're not alone. And the stories that we tell and the lessons that we learn are even broader than this room. So you're not alone. I tell you my son, who is just turned 15 last Friday. That's his picture in the middle there. And I tell you that he just turned 15 because that means he has a learner's permit. And so I highly recommend that you stay off the roads of Georgetown for 3 to 4 years. Okay. And then a picture of my wonderful wife up there. If you ever run into Jana, just know that she's the smarter and better one of the family. And so you should listen and do what she says to do. That is how the Benge boys have lived our lives, and it's worked out well for us. So I'm also the self-proclaimed king of the road trip. I think this is something very important about me. So Zeke can't fly, so we drive everywhere, and we will drive everywhere. So if you ever see us out on the county road looking at cows, and you wonder who are those two strange people out there looking at cows, that's us. We'll drive anywhere. All right. The reason why Mary Jane had me out here is not just because I have cute kids, although I think that is a selling point, but she had me out here as a neuropsychologist. And so what is a neuropsychologist? So a neuropsychologist is a PhD. I'm a PhD, not an MD. But I'm a psychologist who specializes in brain behavior relationships. In other words, your brain does more than just move you around. It also does minor things that might be of importance to you, like thinking, feeling, those sorts of things. And that's why they keep me around. And so when you think about Parkinson's disease, it's very easy to think about Parkinson's disease as a movement disorder, right? Because that's the visible symptom that you can see. You can see the slowness, the rigidity, the tremors, these sorts of things. But really, a lot of times when you're looking at a disorder like Parkinson's disease, it's a lot like a bunch of blind doctors, and whatever organ system they're touching defines what they think the disease is. So think about this, all right? So we've already had voice specialists up here, right? Parkinson's disease can be a disorder of voice, right? Parkinson's disease can be a disorder of constipation. Right? You oftentimes don't think about constipation as a cardinal feature, but there it is. The earliest stages of Parkinson's disease may actually be loss of smell, as well as vivid dreams and nightmares, right? So is it a disorder of sleep, a disorder of smell, a disorder of the GI tract, a disorder? What is it a disorder of? Well, PD impacts multiple different symptoms. And multiple different systems in the brain and in the nervous system. And so the impacts can be broad, but also vary person to person. Not everything I say today will apply to your particular situation, but hopefully it gives you some information and some ideas to think about some of the symptoms that you might see, as well as some of the treatment options that are available for you. So let's talk about mood. All right. So in Parkinson's disease, all right, your brain is a lot like real estate, okay? And so what's the number one rule in real estate? Location, location, location. All right. So in Parkinson's disease, right, you get these little accumulations of this protein called alpha-synuclein, and it tends to build up in different circuits in the brain, and it starts usually down deep in these subcortical circuits, these kind of deep, older parts of the brain. And there's a circuit that goes from the middle part of the brain up to the parts of your brain that send the signals to move you, and then back down to the middle part of the brain. It's a big loop, and that's the movement loop. So when you take your Sinemet, when you take your Ropinirole, when you take other medications, you're adding dopamine into that circuit because the alpha-synuclein has kind of killed off some of the cells that produce dopamine. So you're adding much more in. That helps you move a little better. Okay, so that's the movement. But there are actually 5 or 6, depending on how you count. And yes, people in my world get very upset about how you count these different loops in the brain. It's an occupational hazard. So just in case any neuroscientists out there, I recognize it's a circuit. But there's at least 2 other circuits or 3 other circuits in the brain that impact how the brain is working as well. So one of those circuits affects cognition. One of those circuits affects motivation, get up and go, and one impacts mood. Okay. So changes in mood are very, very common in Parkinson's disease. And probably the most common one is depression. That's what we're going to talk about today, but there's certainly other impacts as well on anxiety and things like that. I'll give a shout out to anxiety every now and then, but depression it seems to be the most common mood change that happens in Parkinson's. And it kind of depends on the study and the duration you follow people, but there are estimates out there that say 8 to 40% of people with Parkinson's disease will experience major depression at some point in the course of their disease. Okay. These symptoms are treatable, but because they're invisible, you don't see them the way you see the movement symptoms, it's easy to get them not checked out and not to get them treated. And actually, it's depression in Parkinson's that has a greater impact on quality of life for a number of individuals than even the movement symptoms. So this stuff matters, okay? What do we mean, though, when we talk about depression? All right, so depression is not just being sad. All right, we'll talk about sadness in a second. Always good to talk about sadness whenever you're giving a talk here. All right, but we'll talk about sadness in a second. With depression, you have to have either that down, depressed mood most of the day, nearly every day. So this is not just I get sad and I bounce out of it. This is staying down, sad, or tearful, or what we call anhedonia, lack of enjoyment, not enjoying things the way that you used to, that impacts nearly everything every day. So you have to have those, as well as either a shift in your weight. So some people with depression will eat too much, they'll kind of crave. Some people won't eat very much food at all. They may have a change in appetite or a change in weight loss. You may be eating the same, your weight goes up or down without really trying. Some people sleep too little when they're depressed, or some people sleep too much whenever they're depressed. Some people get agitated, they get fidgety, they get restless, or some people don't move much at all. Okay. And then there's also feelings of worthlessness, guilt, this sort of thing, problems with concentration, problems making decisions, and thoughts of death, suicidal thoughts, these sorts of things as well. So it's not just feeling sad that defines depression. You can see that depression impacts not just how you're feeling, but also how you're thinking, how you're moving, how your body is reacting to things it typically would react normally to, like appetite and sleep. Okay, and so the thing I want to point out there is if you're hearing those symptoms, you're probably going through that mental checklist and saying, "Oh no. What about me?" All right. This is a very common thing that can occur here. All right. What I would tell you is that in Parkinson's disease in particular, you have to be careful because a lot of these symptoms can overlap with core symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Right. So if you've ever had your Parkinson's meds can lead you to have those dyskinesias, those excessive movements, right? The core feature of Parkinson's also can be lack of movement, right? Or slowness in movement. Problems with sleep can be part of Parkinson's. So it can be very difficult to tease apart the two, which is why I show you those symptoms. But then I also am going to encourage you over and over again to talk to your treating providers, because to rule out if depression is one of those things that's impacting you, it requires kind of going through the rest of your health status and your disease state in order to make sure none of those things are impacting you as well. Okay. So the big question I get asked is, how is depression different than sadness? Right. So again, sadness is a part of life, but depression lingers. So sadness tends to be episodic. The rain cloud of sadness rains on you, but then it blows through and you can go back to enjoying your day or enjoying other activities. Depression lingers. Sadness can occur because of an event or because something happened and you're adjusting to it. It's perfectly normal to have sadness, but sometimes depression can just hit you with no cause and linger there. Okay. Again, with sadness, you're typically able to go about and do your day-to-day activities, whereas depression makes it harder to engage in the things that you care about. Okay. And again, as I mentioned, it's not just feeling down or sad. To meet criteria for depression, you need to see those broader impacts on thinking, feeling, how your body is behaving. Okay. All right. So why depression and Parkinson's? Well, first of all, changes in brain chemistry. All right, so believe it or not, Parkinson's is not just a disorder of dopamine. All right. There are other impacts of these other systems in the brain. Serotonin, acetylcholine, norepinephrine. There's several neurochemical systems that are impacted by Parkinson's disease. So changes in brain chemistry can drive this. The other thing that can come along oftentimes with Parkinson's are negative thoughts, right? So you get a diagnosis, particularly early in the course of the disease, you get a new diagnosis and you start reading about these things, you start learning about these things, and it's easy to kind of get pulled into kind of a snowball of negative thoughts that can, in some people, can seem to start the dominoes falling here in terms of depressive symptoms. Stress related to your health condition or even other conditions, all of these things. And when people ask me why did I get this depression? The answer is rarely just one thing, right? The answer is usually a little bit of all the above. The answer is not A, B, or C. The answer is a little bit of D, all the above. Depression is treatable. This is why we start with this, because I don't want anyone who might be being impacted by this to not get it checked out. Okay. There's a number of different factors. There's a number of different ways to treat depression. And which one works for you is going to vary person to person, right? Your brain is your brain. All right. So sometimes it takes some trial and error to find the right combination of things that work for you, but there's many different options for treatment. So first of all, medications. There are a lot of medications that are out there, a lot. All right. I do not have favorites. I certainly have least favorites, but there's different medications that are out there. These are things that you'll typically hear called SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. They do that just to make me try to spell all those words in Scrabble. Okay. So for SNRI, selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. In your brain has enzymes, these little vacuum cleaners are in the way that I think about them, that suck up these chemicals like serotonin and norepinephrine. They're house cleaners, all right? And so if you don't have enough serotonin in your brain, one of the things that you can do is turn off the vacuum cleaners. And the end result is that you end up, if you turn off the vacuum cleaner, you end up with more serotonin sticking around in the brain for it to use to regulate mood. All right, so this is how those medications work. Because you're turning off the vacuum cleaner, all right, these drugs don't work right away. All right. I don't know who in this room I'm saying this to, but I'm saying it to you, whichever one of you it is. All right. We're used with our Parkinson's meds, you can tell when it kicks in and when it wears off. That's one of the things that doctors always ask you about. So we think that that's the way all drugs in the brain work, is you should know when it kicks in and when it kicks off. SSRIs work slow. You turn off the vacuum cleaner, it may take 6 or 8 weeks to even know if you're moving in the right direction. So I have people all the time that say, oh, the doctor gave me an antidepressant. I took it 2 days. I didn't feel any different, so I quit taking it. Well, yeah, that's not the way it works. All right. So there are a number of options out there. Just know they work different than some of your other medications. But they can definitely play a role in treatment of this. Talk therapy, all right? Talk therapy or evidence-based psychotherapy techniques are another approach that can treat Parkinson's disease. And this is one of the cool things about the brain, is that the brain can treat itself. I think that's pretty stinking cool. All right. I think the idea that you can learn techniques to think better, to feel better, is one of the amazing kind of gifts of the brain. It keeps me going to work every day. All right. So cognitive behavioral therapies have an actual good evidence base. So there's been well-designed, randomized controlled studies in people with Parkinson's disease to show that these techniques work. And CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, involve breaking this cycle of thinking, feeling, and behaving. All right. So one of the most common things that happens when you're depressed is that you say, well, I'll go exercise, I'll go shower, I'll clean the kitchen when I feel better. right? But I don't feel better, so I'm not going to do those things, right? And 1,000 smiles lit up across the crowd here, all right? So we know, but when you're in the midst of a depressive episode, it doesn't feel this way, right? That's not the direction the cycle goes. You have to behave. You have to fake it till you make it. You have to start activity first before the feelings come. All right. When I woke up this morning, all right, I did not grab the zest of life out of today. I got my COVID and my flu vaccine yesterday. I wanted to lay there and count the ceiling fan blades just a little bit longer. All right. But with the help of multiple cups of coffee and a 7:30 appointment I was scared I would miss, I eventually got up, got going, and now here I can talk, and it doesn't feel near as dreadful as what it initially felt at 5 o'clock this morning. Okay, sometimes you have to act first, then the feelings come. The other thing is, a good cognitive behavioral therapist will help you catch these thoughts. Right. So we tend to, especially when you're in the midst of depression, you'll have cognitive distortions. You'll have these little assumed thoughts that are easy to start to believe. And if there's one thing, I feel like when you're born, you should get an owner's manual to the brain, right? It's like, you're a human. These are some things you should know. All right. And the most important things you should know about your brain is that thoughts think themselves. They're not necessarily true. Okay. So for example, you can have this thought of, oh, I've got my disease. It's going to change over time. I can't do anything because it's going to change over time. This is what we're going to do. It's easy to believe that thought. All right. When in reality, none of us have promised what's going to happen tomorrow. We all act like we know what's going to happen tomorrow. Right. So the only time we actually have to live is right now. Right. But we get so far caught in thoughts of the future or thoughts in the past that we're not able to focus on what we need to be doing right now. Good cognitive behavioral therapists will help you capture those thoughts and find more adaptive thoughts to put in their place. The thing, and I promise I'll only say this about 50 times today, is Mary Jane is right. Okay. Physical activity, mental activity, and social activity are effective treatments, not just for the motor symptoms of Parkinson's disease, but also for the mood symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Showing up and suiting up, like y'all did today, is incredibly important to managing your mental health. It has been shown to be effective. Right. So again, there's this meta-analysis, this study of studies that has shown how these combined interventions of exercise, socialization, eating a healthy diet, participating in support groups improves mental health outcomes in Parkinson's disease. This, what y'all are doing, matters. Okay. Treating this depression it takes working with a team. Like most aspects of Parkinson's treatment, it takes a team to help recognize and treat depression. Start with your primary care doctor or your neurologist. If you're dealing with a movement disorder, they are very, very familiar with this condition. It happens very commonly. Sometimes, if you're not getting good response with the things they're most comfortable with, a psychiatrist, particularly a geriatric psychiatrist, can be helpful to help find combinations of medications that may work for you. Psychologists and counselors, right? It's very individualized. To have a counseling relationship that works for you. Again, sometimes it may take trying a few different ones, but they're the ones that can help you with the cognitive behavioral therapy. And so sometimes it may take a time and a team to do those sorts of combinations of treatments to find the thing that works for you. But there are things that can help. Okay. Former caregivers in the crowd. All right. Things about the mood aspect of Parkinson's is some people still, it's better than what it was, but some people aren't comfortable talking about the mood aspect of things. Okay. And what I would encourage you to do is if you're worried about someone, talk to them about it. Have a conversation about the feelings. It may be a little awkward at first. All right. But if you're concerned, it's better to talk about it than not talk about it. But also be careful with your assumptions. All right. So one of the things, like the voice coach that was up here earlier was talking to you about, Parkinson's disease can affect facial expressiveness. So sometimes people aren't as smiley or responsive as what they once were. And so it's easy to think that they're not laughing or they're not smiling, more due to the movement symptoms than the underlying mood. All right. So you can believe them. If they're not, I don't feel sad. I may not be as expressive, but that may be a symptom of the disease. So be careful with what you're assuming here. Practice what you preach. Right? Being a caregiver can have an impact on mental health, right? And so if you may need to model, hey, I'm dealing with this right now. I want to go reach out for help. I'm going to talk to my doctors about what to do. And you can even you can engage in couples counseling, you can engage in family therapy, you can engage in these treatments together and kind of work through this journey together. So that's depression and things. Now let's go a little bit to the cousin here, which is motivation or apathy. All right. Now this is something that has really, we kind of talked about it back when I was in graduate school way back in 2003. I'm old. I had long flowing hair at that time. The beard was slightly red, believe it or not. Okay. But apathy is a lack of motivation, interest, or enthusiasm. The get up and go, got up and left. Okay. And this is one of the hardest things to measure. There's different kind of questionnaires that can measure this lack of motivated behavior and drive. But these questionnaires definitely have limits. If you filled out all those forms at your Medicare annual physical, you know some of the limitations of the questionnaires that we have to fill out. This is actually one of the aims of one of the projects that you can talk with Rovi about after our talk here. Because motivated behavior is so hard to measure, we're wondering if things like metrics of engagement with your smartphone, right? How often do you pick it up? How quickly do you type? How much of those sorts of things? How much of those can serve as surrogate markers for changes in behavior, mood, and cognition in conditions like Parkinson's disease and age-related things? So we're actually trying to make this invisible symptom visible through one of our studies funded by the NIH. And so that's one project you can talk with Rovi about afterwards here. But these symptoms of lack of interest in activities or decreased initiation of activities day to day, these are caused by a disruption in the other circuit, one of the other circuits in so there's a circuit that goes from the middle part of your brain up to what's called the medial frontal circuit, which is kind of like the gas pedal and the brake for the brain. It helps activities get started. It helps activities go away. Okay. So this circuit can get disrupted in the brain. All right. The thing is dopamine. All right. So sweet dopamine, all roads lead back to dopamine. Your brain likes multitaskers. So dopamine is a chemical it uses for movement, but dopamine is also released in your brain when you do something that's enjoyable. All right. So if you have fun, all right, you get a little squirt of dopamine, right? If you eat gummy bears, which is my weakness, you get a little squirt of gummy bears, squirt of gummy bears or dopamine. You can tell where my mind is thinking. All right. So dopamine dysregulation is something that can occur in Parkinson's disease. And so you'll see either side of this. You can see people who don't have enough dopamine and so don't have enough get up and go. But then you may have seen people, or you may wonder why your movement disorder neurologist asks about things like excessive gambling, excessive spending, excessive interest in sex or other things. Because sometimes, particularly with dopamine medications that are dopamine agonists, you can get too much motivated behavior, right? So a lot of Parkinson's is always trying to find that balance between too little and too much on the dopaminergic system. So both of those features may be what causes apathy here. So what's the difference between apathy and depression? Okay, so individuals experiencing a major depressive disorder may have apathy, But apathy can exist by itself without those other symptoms of depression. When I work with a patient who has apathy, oftentimes what they describe is that they don't feel like much. They don't feel particularly sad, guilty, hopeless, helpless. Right? They just don't feel very much. Something good happens, they don't feel very much then. Something bad happens, they don't feel very much then. Right. So it's more of not that persistent low mood. It's more kind of the absence of that. And again, like depression is not just mood. It's also changes in appetite, changes in other aspects of cognition, those sorts of things. Apathy can exist in Parkinson's disease kind of by itself. Right. And so you don't have to be depressed to have apathy. Okay. How does this happen? Well, again, it's very, very tough to measure the symptoms. So whatever I say this year may end up being changed as we get better at measuring this over time. But we're seeing estimates from 12 to 36% of individuals with Parkinson's disease may meet some of these research criteria for apathy at some point in time. And it this U-shaped kind of pattern to apathy. So apathy may be an early symptom in some people. It may even predate the onset of movement symptoms because that dopamine level is kind of drifting down and it's more noticeable in behavior before it's noticeable in movement. And then when you treat dopamine, you can get the meds dialed in right, pretty level. And then over time, as the dopaminergic medications are less effective, it may start to increase again. We'll see if that bears out, but I find that compelling. And again, when you talk to individuals who have lived several decades with Parkinson's, you may see this in being reported at least for a period of time in 40 to 60% of individuals with PD. So what to do about apathy? Again, don't just talk to a stranger in a gym. Talk to your doctor. All right. Your mileage may vary about this. We need to understand your particular status, how your other meds are dialed in, as well as some of your other medications can mimic this. Other conditions like thyroid problems. There's a lot of things that can mimic these conditions. So start with someone who knows you well, because you have to rule out everything else first. And whatever you're left with is what you're trying to treat here. Okay. There's some studies that are out there that are looking at trying stimulant medications, dopamine agonists. There's kind of varying degrees of medication success. I think we're going to see more of this unfold in coming years here. But in the interim, behaviorally, what you want to focus on here is consistency, structure, and routine. All right. In other words, you want to take the want to out of the equation. All right. So I dream of being retired. I think I'm going to be a very good retired person. All right. We've established there are roads that Zeke and I have not driven on yet, and we will drive on them. All right. So these days, I don't rely on the want to. I rely on the fact that I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock. I'm going to hit the road at 5:30, because if you're driving to downtown Austin, you don't want to do that at 6:30. Okay. And then I'm going to leave at 4. I'm going to get home. Then we start Dr. Dad patrol, right? This is the consistency, the structure, and routine. And so no matter how I'm feeling, my environment, my routine empowers me to get the things done, even on days when motivation are there. Well, once you retire, those consistency, structure, and routines that define your life tend to go away, right? You may not have those things that get you on that kind of consistent pattern of when you're going to get up, when you're going to get dressed, when you're going to get out the door. So trying to build back in those habits, those consistencies, again, you don't want to rely on the motivation to do those things. You want to rely on habit memory. And that seems to be effective for some individuals at getting around some of the apathy. The thing that you can do is externalize, have a checklist, right? This is our checklist for every day. So before we can just sit in the chair and not do anything, we have to at least check off these things on our list. We're going to get up, we're going to shower, we're going to exercise for 20 minutes, we're going to make sure we take our meds. Get that out of your head into a checklist. Have individuals work the checklist as opposed to I'll do it when I feel like it here. All right. So in other words, it's very common. I don't know if this ever happens in your family, but in our family, we get the boys. I used to be boys to bed. Now it's the boys are in the room. It's Friday night. Where are we going to eat? I don't know. What do you want? I don't know. What do you want? And we will. What do you want until we pass out to an episode of West Wing? All right. This is the way that this works in the Benge family, and I hear an amen from the congregation.
Because I ask you to do things and you don't do them. And I can't do them myself anymore.
If you're helping someone with apathy, one of the things that you want to do is not ask, do you want to? Because the answer is no, we don't want to. Right? Instead, it's we're going to. We're going to go do this. We're going to go for a walk. We're going to go to the group. We're going to go to those things. And if you take away that kind of friction of do you want to, and instead just say, this is what we're doing, right? Again, people with apathy can get enjoyment out of things, but they aren't going to get started on their own. So you have to give that little bit of external nudge to get things going.
But that's what it is. That's
change over time. We're at the beginning of understanding this phenomena. More to follow with new and better trainings.
Respond, period. The end.
Okay. And if someone's on Zoom has their speaker on, so you might mute that there. Okay. The thing, which is typically a whole talk in and of itself. This is what I have my PhD in, and so I'm going to shove this down into like 6 slides, and it's going to bother me. But let's start with cognitive changes in Parkinson's disease a little bit. All right. So in Parkinson's, in cognition, we love our terminology. We love to make up words because you can't bill insurance unless you have a fancy word for it. So we have a lot of words here, right? But first of all, when you're thinking about cognition, right, you have to channel yourself. The only thing that's constant is change. All right. Your brain will change whether you have Parkinson's or not. That used to be something funny that I said until the beard got as white as it is. And you know what? My brain is different than the brain that went through graduate school. All right. Your brain will change. So there's going to be some changes in cognition, even as a part of the normal aging process. What we're talking about when we use terms like mild cognitive impairment, or we'll use terms like dementia, what we're talking about is, first of all, are the cognitive changes different than what we would expect for age? All right, so this is where a neuropsychological evaluation happens. When you come to see me, we put you through some tasks to try to measure cognition, and we say, for other people your age, education, is what you're noticing is kind of the way you're thinking here. Does it actually seem any different than what we'd expect for age? Okay. We look at is how much can you do for yourself, right? So if you're having some thinking changes, but you're still pretty independent for your day-to-day activities, we use the term mild cognitive impairment, or MCI, for that. If you have changes in thinking and you've had to stop doing, or you've lost your independence for daily activities because of the thinking changes, right? So you've had to stop driving, stop managing your medication, stop managing finances, those sorts of things, because we were forgetting too much or slow reaction time, that sort of thing. That's when we started to use the term dementia, okay? A lot of people get confused about the term dementia, all right? And kind of an easy way to think about this is dementia is an umbrella term, a change in thinking that leads to difficulties with daily activities. That's all that term means. It's sort of like saying, I have an upper respiratory infection. I have symptoms, a cough, runny nose, that sort of thing, right? That's the symptom, the umbrella term. But just like an upper respiratory infection can have a lot of different causes, right? So you can have COVID, you can have flu, you can have cold, you can have other things that cause an upper respiratory infection. a lot of things can cause a dementia. So the most common thing that causes dementia with age is Alzheimer's disease. That's a cause of dementia. It's not the same thing as dementia, but other things can cause dementia as well. Blood vessel changes, vascular dementia, frontotemporal dementia, or Parkinson's dementia, or its cousin, dementia with Lewy bodies. All sorts of different things can influence dementia. So you have an umbrella term that just refers to symptoms, then you try to work through the cause. Okay. So again, it's very challenging sometimes to make this diagnosis. This is why we have a wait list that's so long here. It takes a while to kind of get this figured out. But in terms of what sorts of things are kind of par for the course with Parkinson's disease, again, the symptoms are, these pathology changes influence things that usually have to do with multitasking, doing more than one thing at a time, problem solving, organizing, right? So a typical change, we call this executive functioning, but generally you can do one thing at a time pretty darn good, but if you start getting too much information or you have a task that has too many different parts, those are the sorts of tasks that tend to get harder if you're having some cognitive changes secondary to Parkinson's. Slowness in thinking, right? So the information's there, right? But it takes it longer to pull up. This is oftentimes what patients describe to me with this is actually that word finding problem. You know, that thing where I know what I wanted to say in that conversation. And if you just let me call you back at 8 o'clock tonight, I will tell you the word I was thinking of. All right. This is something that happens very, very common. The information is in there, but it's slower to pull up there. And then having a harder time putting new information into or pulling it out of memory, particularly for what we call prospective memory. So prospective memory is remembering to remember, all right? We sometimes think about memory as going backwards, right? Going back and remembering something from the past. The actually more problematic thing is remembering, I need to take my medications at noon. Oh, next time I'm at HEB, I need to make sure and pick up the Kyledo salsa from Lubbock, Texas, hot, which is actually pretty remarkable. Even if you have some anosmia, the Kyledos will percolate. All right. So these prospective memory lapses, problems remembering to remember, can be very, very common in Parkinson's disease. Okay. How often does this happen? Is it going to happen to me? I get this question a lot. I don't know if I fooled you or not, but I am not God and I do not have a crystal ball. Anyone who tells you that they are is lying to you or trying to sell you something. Okay. It's hard to get good long-term cohorts, like follow people from diagnosis to death with Parkinson's disease. There's a few studies. There's a group out of Sydney that has followed a cohort for a long time. Different studies give you different amounts, but maybe 20 to 50% of individuals with Parkinson's disease at any one time point in these longitudinal studies will have some cognitive changes relative to controls. The longer you live with it, your risks go up. I oftentimes say that, though, but that is the same thing about life. If you live long enough, something will go wrong. So this is one of those things that there are literally a stack of papers taller than I am that say that, but that's also true for everything. The common risk factors are older age at onset of the Parkinson's disease. And then interestingly enough, having more gait problems as opposed to kind of the tremor-dominant Parkinson's disease early in the course of the disease. We oftentimes think about the walking problem as a motor symptom, but walking is actually incredibly complicated cognitively, right? So you have to be able to know where your foot is, where your body is in space, not get distracted by your cell phone going off, that sort of thing. All right. So it's interesting. I find that an interesting association. Okay. Why cognitive changes in Parkinson's? We got our old friends, the frontocortical circuits, particularly one that goes here to the side of the brain, these kind of dorsolateral prefrontal changes. The Lewy body pathologies eventually can come out of that movement subcortical area of the brain and get into other regions of the brain as well. And then just because you have one change in the brain doesn't mean you don't have other health conditions or other neurological conditions that can influence cognition as well. So again, when it comes to the brain, we're getting better about this. I used to tell people the only way I'm 100% sure about what's going on in your brain is when we take it out and put it under a microscope. And we're not going to do that to you because of side effects. Okay. We're getting a little better at being able to have some in vivo markers of this. And so the landscape is changing literally as we speak. I hope one day to wake up and be out of a job. I'm going to go work for UPS. I look good in the brown shorts. And so that is my plan B. But thank you. All right. But until that, we're still figuring this space out here a little bit. Okay. What do you do about cognitive problems? All right. Get it out of your head and into a system. All right. If it's mission critical, right? I love giving Parkinson's talks at noon when I get to do a lunch lecture, because you know what happens in a room full of individuals with Parkinson's disease at noon? Well, everyone goes to sleep. Yeah, I like that too. Everyone's cell phone goes off to remind them to take their medication, their noon dose. Set your alarms, please, right? Use your pill boxes, use a calendar. This is another study that we're recruiting for over here. We are doing the battle royale of Google Calendar versus paper-based calendar. What better helps older adults with memory changes be able to help prospective memory? You can put wagers with Rovi, and it takes us 5 years to do the study and about another year to analyze the results. So the payout will be a little long. But that's another study you can talk to Rovi about that we're recruiting for here. So use systems, use external aids. Again, a lot of y'all that had careers had external systems, had calendars, had people that did some of this memory for you. And dust off those skills and habits. Work with your family for anything that's complex, right? So the big three things that make me lose sleep at night, kind of the three most cognitively complex things, are driving, finances, and medication. Right? Those are kind of three very complicated things that we all just kind of assume are just always going to be there. But this is where if you have a condition that can cause some of these changes, getting another set of eyes, particularly on those three things, is pretty important. Again, talk with your doctors. There are some medication options. This is not like magic pills. You're not going to pop a pill and start quoting Shakespeare. If that happens, please call me. All right. We're going to be famous. I'll give you a cut of the profit here. But there are some medications, particularly medications known as acetylcholinesterase inhibitors, which is 9,000 points in Scrabble, that can allow you to have a little more of the chemical acetylcholine in your brain, which can help with memory and attention for some people. Working with a speech language therapist, not just for voice training, but for what's called cognitive linguistic treatments. Basically, just like you do with physical therapy, you can do cognitive exercise, and that can be helpful. And then again, Mary Jane is right. Exercise. Exercise is good for the brain. Move your body, help your brain. Socialize, right? Learn something new, play brain games, learn a foreign language. Are you going to mess stuff up? Sure. Look at how many times I've messed up standing in front of you. To err is human. What you don't want to do is stop feeding your brain activity, because that is associated with quicker rates of change over time. Okay. So I think I came fairly close. I got a thumbs up, so that's good. It is hard for me to be succinct, but I will put up here a couple of our studies that we have available. We have contact information, and you can talk to Rovi afterwards for these things. I also want to point out, on our road trips this year, what a great wildflower year this year. It was phenomenal. I don't know if we'll get many of those over time, but I'm glad we got it. So I'm thankful for the flowers. I'm thankful for y'all. I'm thankful for this great group. Thank you so much.
Pretty late. Yeah. Oh, Dr. Benge is absolutely awesome. I heard him, golly, early on.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So we've kind of been partnered up together a long time. And I've always enjoyed his lectures and find them very, very informative. But I'd like to open it up to questions now. And Don, if we have any questions from the Zoom, be sure y'all read them to me and let me know. But do we have any questions? Okay, so the roving mic is going to come to you, so you speak real loud, and we'll let Dr. Benge answer. Okay.
I have two non-physical aspects that I'm not sure you can address today: hallucinations and anxiety.
Thank you. I had to make the cut somewhere. So, but now you just gave me an excuse here. All right. So anxiety, I think about anxiety as the cousin of depression. So they can frequently co-occur. One of my most highly billed diagnoses is mixed anxiety and depression, because why pick one when we can get both? Okay. When you think of anxiety, we're just talking about worry. Everybody gets some worry from time to time, but anxiety disorders usually include a cognitive thought, a fear of a particular situation or a generalized fear. So there's fearfulness, but then there's physical symptoms such as the racing heart palpitations, tension in the muscles, as well as this kind of sense of foreshortened future, particularly with individuals struggling with kind of traumatic stress anxiety related to that. Anxiety can be come with depression, can come by itself. There are actually a number of individuals I've seen who never had anxiety disorders early in life, and their first symptom, usually a couple of years before the movement symptom started, was out of nowhere. They would have brand new panic attack symptoms. Racing heart, can't control your breathing, feel like an elephant sitting on your chest. If you've never had one, 10 out of 10 do not recommend it. All right. And so it seems that the same sort of symptoms in the same sort of systems, serotonergic system and norepinephrine systems in the brain that can lead to depression can also lead to anxiety disorders and Parkinson's disease. The same rules apply, similar treatment strategies apply, and like I said, they typically kind of come on with one another. Now, the hallucinations question is actually a very fascinating question in and of its own right. And so the way I typically like to think about hallucinations is that they can have many different causes in Parkinson's disease. So one of the things that can happen, all right, I'm going to vastly oversimplify. I can feel my psychopharmacology professors from back in the day about to tweet me for saying this. So if you look at medications that we use to treat hallucinations, right? Those are medications that they're called atypical antipsychotics. What do? They block dopaminergic activity in the brain. Okay. So what you do with Parkinson's? You add dopamine in the brain, right? And there's that window where some individuals with Parkinson's disease get too much dopamine, and the end result is that you can end up having hallucinations, right? At the same time, patients who have hallucinations even without Parkinson's, if we give them too much antipsychotic, do you know what they do? They get rigidity, tremor, shakiness. Sound familiar, right? So these medications are in this kind of balancing act between too much and too little dopaminergic medication. And so some of the newer, this is why the atypical antipsychotics are kind of exciting, because they just more selectively block the type of dopamine receptor that's associated with hallucinations and not movement, and vice versa. But again, we're still getting better at that balance. So one thing could be meds can kind of tweak out of balance here. The other thing is that individuals with hallucinations also can have more problems with visual spatial skills on my sorts of kind of cognitive testing. Like we talked about, the Lewy bodies tend to creep out of the movement parts of the brain, and when they get into the back part of the brain, that's where visual processing occurs. And so this idea of misperceptions or pareidolia, this tendency to kind of see a face in kind of noisy stimuli, these sorts of phenomena may be primary visual spatial phenomena that then the individual misinterprets. All right. Two other things, and then I'll leave alone. Delirium. All right. So if you have Parkinson's disease, you're at more risk for delirium. So if you've ever gone in with like a sudden change in thinking or a hallucination and the doctor wants a urinary tract infection, wants a urine specimen, that's why. All right. If you have a sudden change in cognition, it can be something as simple as a urinary tract infection where we all get that fuzzy feeling when we're sick. Again, I feel kind of fuzzy today because I just got all my vaccines. Well, that fuzzy feeling can go from like a 1 or 2 on the volume knob to a 10 in a hurry with Parkinson's. And so sometimes getting sick with something else, having missed your meds or been off on the timing of the meds, these sorts of things can happen. And the funny thing is actually not a hallucination. If they only happen at night, what you may be having is REM, sleep behavior disorder, right? So these very vivid dreams or nightmares, but when you're just coming into wakefulness and it's kind of a dark room and you may not see those, may not be seeing things or may not be very bright around there, sometimes you get a little intrusion of those sleep dream things. And then once you wake up all the way and get the lights on, they go away. So hallucinations have many different causes in Parkinson's. Again, you can have all those different things. They're worth talking about. There are treatment options that are available for you. There's new treatment options, which is kind of cool for that as well. So that was a great course talk in and of itself, but thank you for letting me gush all that.
All right. Okay, Judy has a question. Okay, this will be our questions. And I'm gonna let Judy wait. Judy, I'm gonna bring this to you. Diana, here I am.
So you talked about the role of the role of dopamine changes and ups and downs affecting hallucinations.
Yep.
But can you tell us a little bit about how they affect behavior?
Yeah.
Dopamine dysregulation syndrome.
Judy, yeah, I'm like you. All right, very good, very good. All right, so this dopamine dysregulation thing is a very important thing. Right? I mentioned it briefly, but it's worth a deep dive in and of itself. So first of all, again, dopamine is secreted in your brain to help with movement, but also for things that feel good, enjoyable things. All right. And so if something feels good, you get more dopamine. Well, if you add more dopaminergic medications in there, in some people, not everyone, but in some people, you get this kind of feedback loop where things like gambling, things like excessive shopping, sexual behaviors, these sorts of things that would secrete dopamine in all of us, that volume gets kind of increased and may kind of continue to kind of snowball over time. So it's almost the flip side of apathy, right? So apathy is not enough behavior, but this is too much behavior. And interestingly enough, people can vacillate between those two. This is where the dysregulation comes from. I don't want to do any activity except the things that I do too much. Right. So that is kind of the dopamine dysregulation system. Now, the other component that you talked about there that is increasingly getting noted is, mood fluctuations, right? So if you go in, that's how long are you on? How long are you off? Right. And if you said with Swallow, he's drawn you those curves of peaks and troughs. It turns out that some of these non-motor symptoms, cognitive symptoms, sleep symptoms, orthostatic symptoms may also fluctuate and may fluctuate in a cycle that's kind of off kilter with the movement symptoms. So this is an area, again, that we're just starting to research. But yeah, you can certainly have these kind of fluctuating symptoms as a part of the non-motor symptom fluctuations. Thank you.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank you. And one of the things we heard one stuff, and I've already gotten some people who have said, and I'll turn this off just for 1 second. We've had somebody wanted to be able to see you in full screen. They want to see you big time. But one of the things that people have said is how to get a hold of you. And so I will put this in our newsletter, which, by the way, this whole talk has been recorded. And so you will also get the links. You can watch it on YouTube so you can see it again. You can share it with other people. But I will also put your contact information. And he is right over here so that you definitely can sign up for the studies. But we want to say thank you very much, sir. And just as a reminder, you get to hear him again if you would like. He is going to be at the worship place on October the 1st. And by all means, feel free to go to that one. Gaps will also be there. Do you have a question? Oh, yeah, I think it was 6. Yeah. I'll put it in my next email too, that will be going out. But by all means, for sure, it's going to be great on memory. And like I said, I've heard it before, he's so awesome. Okay, so now we're going to come back to one more thing. Let's jump right over here. And I'll come in here. Okay. A big thank you,